Good morning. Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. There's so many things going on in the real estate business and the real estate space, and people talking about real estate. What better way to bring our next guest in? And now, by way of St. Petersburg, Florida, he is the general manager at RateMyAgent US. He is an ambassador at Inman News. He recently won in 2019 the Inman Innovator Award for podcasting. He is the host and founder of the Real Estate Sessions podcast. He's a husband, a father, and a survivor. He is Bill Risser.
David, you need to travel with me when I appear on a show. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I was looking for the confetti and the lights, but I couldn't find it, so I was trying to.
That's great. That's great. It made my day.
I mean, you're very widely respected, and certainly in the podcast space, and your Real Estate Sessions podcast is phenomenal. What was the impetus behind that podcasting? Because people are starting to get into podcasting now. Because it's a little bit maybe more convenient. The tools are cool. I even got my my new Yeti mic and all that kind of stuff, right? So so tell us a little bit about what the reason you came up with that Real Estate Sessions podcast.
It was the summer of 2015, and I'd seen some podcasting going on. Pat Hibben was doing it. He's been doing it for a long time, Real Estate Rock Stars, and I'm like, I wonder, I think I could do a show. I think it'd be kind of fun. I love talking to people. I'm very curious by nature. So I've always done an interview style show like you do, David. And I said, let's just see how this podcast stuff works. Did some digging, started with Libsyn, Liberated Syndication, which is one of the oldest podcasting platforms out there. And it was July 31st, August 1st of 2015. I called up my buddy Jay Thompson, who at the time was with Zillow doing the industry relations.
We all know Jay. We
all know Jay. Yeah. And so he said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I recorded the show. I hate listening to it. You can go find it. It's really bad, but it's from that model of, hey, you just got to get going. Don't wait for perfection. Just get something out there. And it's gotten better over the years. But that was the impetus. I loved listening to good interviewers, and I wanted to try to do the same thing.
Well, you have a great voice too, so you're it's so funny because how things evolve, and you look at the first. I look at the first video that I did, a Facebook Live interview, and it's just it's like the lighting is so bad and the audio you could barely hear, and what did he say, kind of thing, but it really is, and Sue Pinky Benson said something that always really it kind of stuck with me. It was like, it doesn't matter. You have to do it. Like it doesn't matter. Like people see how you look. They see how what you listen. They listen to you or whatever. But you got to do it. And and I guess that's really something that most people. And I don't know about you, but this isn't our comfort zone. This isn't like maybe 3 years later it is, but it certainly wasn't the first. I still get nervous. Like this morning, I'm like writing my intro, and I'm like, I hope I don't mess things up, which I probably will. But to those listeners and viewers out there, it's not too late to get into podcasting, is it?
No, it's not too late to get into video as well, right? I think that I've always done an audio only podcast. I just kind of went old school, and once I got it going, I just kind of left it there, and I'm comfortable with it. But I think that a realtor starting out is going to do something like you're doing, David. Every week you're producing this content, and it could be stripped away and put into a podcast very easily. But you've also got the video that can be posted at all kinds of different places. All the complaints, and Sue is a dear friend. In fact, Michelle Belisari, who is one of your agents, her podcast is amazing as well. So they all had to start someplace, and every single one of us just hated what we did in the beginning, but you just got to do it. I don't know how else to explain that. It's been the year of video in real estate since like 2010. Every year it's a year of video, but it's the adoption rate is still so low. Like I'm a huge fan of other tools to make it easy. BombBomb, I've been with BombBomb since 2012. I mean, the ability to have those one-to-one video conversations as opposed to just simple, black text on white screen is powerful as well. So yeah, my words are, don't be afraid, do it. My favorite guy said to me one time, this old gentleman who would, a realtor who said, the reason I'm doing video is because they're going to see me anyways, and I just don't want to shock them when they see me. I go, perfect. That's perfect now.
Yeah, eventually, if they're going to be repulsed by you when they see you might as well get it over with.
Get it over with. Yeah, it's perfect.
And Michael Thorne and Jesse Peters were my mentors getting into this, and certainly Sue was as well. But as you're going through it, we all have a lot to say, right? We all, we speak to people. If we're in the real estate space, we're speaking to people every day, and and we have something to say. So why not say it to more people and have more of an audience?
Put it out there. That's exactly right. I mean, for me, it's funny you mentioned Michael Thorne and Jesse. Michael's been on my podcast. Michelle's been on my podcast. Sue Benson's been on my podcast. Soon, David, you'll be a guest on my podcast. We're going to make all this work, so it'll be fun. Yeah.
Listen, it's it's kind of an amazing thing. When you look at all the people that and I occasion, like every few months, I'll look back at my guests, right? People that are that I've interviewed, and you're like, wow, that interview was really great, or that interview bombed, or what have you. And who was your favorite interview? And I say favorite, who was the most memorable interview that you did?
For me, it would probably be Mark Davison, who's one of the co-founders of 1000 Watt. They're the marketing agency extraordinaire out of the West Coast. And he's just a very interesting guy, because for me, it comes down to what's their background. My podcast is, very unique. I don't jump right into some sort of help immediately for an agent or someone in the business watching the podcast. I spend the first third for sure. I want to find out about their background, where they come from, what they do. And he actually worked in the music industry for 20 years. And there are just some amazing stories that came out of there. And then he was with Inman in the beginning and helped shape what Inman looked like back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then just stepping away with Brian Boero and creating this just fantastic agency. It was just a great story. So those are the kinds that I like, people that have really cool backstories. And a lot of realtors, a lot of people in our business do. Very few people are in high school going, I can't wait to get out of school and become a realtor, right? So there's always a story.
It's usually like, hey, I'm David Serle, but I used to be a teacher. I'm a realtor now, but I used to be a teacher. Right. I used to be an engineer. Or I used to be a doctor, whatever it may be. And the funny thing is way back when I used to blog on Active Rain. Way back then. And I remember one of the blogs was basically stop giving the excuse that I used to be a realtor, because so many people, until people realize that this is a professional, listen, not all realtors are created equal, and certainly consumers know this. People watching know this. There are certain people that are really good at their craft, and they're really good at it. And when we say good at the craft, it doesn't mean a used car salesman craft. It means, or sales tactics or anything like that. It means that, to lead the people down to a pathway of kind of, where they make that decision, but you're there as a knowledgeable professional agent to navigate some of the obstacles, that comes your way. When we're talking about obstacles, we talk about, kind of, I think most real estate professionals, have a problem with continuing to follow up after the closing, right? I heard one time, he says, don't make it like a funeral. It's like, oh, you're gone, right? You do the closing, and maybe you contact them a few months down the road or whatever. Tell us a little bit about Rate My Agent, because testimonials and reviews are so big now. I mean, I can't remember the last time I bought a product without actually first looking at the reviews. And I want to see the negative ones. I want to see the ones that, don't give me 5 stars, that give me 3 stars or 4 stars, because those I can look at and say, well, their negative doesn't mean my negative, or
right.
maybe they didn't contact you within 18 seconds. They contacted you in a minute and a half, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Look, I'm a huge fan of a 4.8, a solid 4.8 for someone's overall review average, because that's just it looks very honest to me, right? And so RateMyAgent, real quick, it's a digital marketing platform that's designed to help agents kind of harness the power of verified reviews. And that's really our differentiator, is the ability to take the review and tie it to the actual transaction. That's unique in our space. And so that's what we're really good at. And on top of that, once you've got a review that's in there, tied to the transaction on its own unique URL, it can be used a lot of different ways. Now you can push it out. Now you can distribute it through your social circles. You can do digital ad campaigns. They can be stuck in a widget on your website. You name it, you now have this control of that. And then we're doing other cool things like helping agents push those reviews out to, with the help of the consumer, into your Google My Business reviews, or to push the post out. I don't think many people realize this, but you can post into a feed in your Google My Business and have those just automatically, running through there, because we all know how important Google is in this world. I think if David, if you're a good friend of mine, and I refer another friend to you to use as an agent, there's probably still, even though I'm good friends with you and I'm good friends with them, they're still going to go to Google and type your name in. And what pops up, you need to control that as an agent. So I think realtors get that now. And they're really engaged in these conversations, and so that's like step one of your initial question, which was how do we continue to follow up, right? I mean, it's so critical. I mean, the letter CRM just seemed to set off like weird things in people. but your RE/MAX,
this is the best CRM. This is the best CRM.
Yeah, well, RE/MAX, I know. Adam and the team brought Bouge on board, right? So you have something that's that's consistent and everybody knows. But boy, a CRM to me is this simple. It's you talk to somebody, you document it, and then right when you're done documenting what you talked about, you schedule the next time you're going to call them. I don't care if it's 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 years. You schedule the next time, and then you just do what your schedule tells you to do. If you just did that in a CRM, that's a grand slam. So not staying in touch is a look. Every online lead that people get is somebody's agent who got away because somebody had to sell them the house and they don't remember, or that person didn't follow up.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a stat. I think in 2020, and I forget where it was sourced, but 43% of all internet leads were never responded to. Oof. I mean, wow. Talk about a big miss.
and a lot of money being spent for nothing, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's tough. I mean, an online lead, business is tough, but it's about it. And I had Ricky Kruth on recently, and he talked about meaningful conversations. And I really kind of drilled that down a little bit. And I really thought that, it really isn't about selling real estate on a daily basis. It's having more and more, meaningful conversations, and whatever that meaningful, means, to you and your business. But, it's not about real estate. It's about talking to someone about, their aunt, or talking to someone about, the weather, or talking to someone about, sports, because you're deepening those relationships.
Yeah. My favorite saying in that kind of that vein comes from Sean Carpenter. I don't know if you know Sean. He's an agent up in Columbus, Ohio. You should have him on the show. Amazing coach and a realtor. And his tagline he's had for years is, it's all about building relationships, solving problems, and having fun. If you could do that every day, build some relationships, solve some problems, have some fun, you're having a great day as a realtor. So pretty interesting. Right along those lines with Ricky. Yeah.
No, it's, and to really give people a sense of, what's coming, right? What's the, the real estate market, there's so much noise, and then, we call it disruptors or whatnot, and it's all kinds of, the Z word, the C word, all kinds of things, right? These behemoth companies coming in and buying up everything. And now we're going to be indentured servants to all of them. Right? Isn't that how the real estate space?
Yeah, it is the doomsday, the sky is falling, all that stuff. If you stay connected to your customers, if you really do build those relationships, there's nothing that can disrupt that. That is the key, right? And you don't need this massive group of people. I'll steal another phrase from a friend of mine, Anthony Malafronte, who says, if you have a small viable audience, that's what you need, right? That's what makes you successful.
So how do you connect? How do you keep in connection with, those customers? Because, a lot of times, we get, we're real estate agents, obviously get busy, certainly in this market, and whether it's in St. Petersburg or in Boca Raton, Florida.
Sure.
Real estate agents are really, really busy right now, right? So they're doing they're almost prioritizing what's in front of them rather than, what's, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months down the line. And, and we all know how that goes, because eventually, this market's not going to be as hot,
Yep.
It's going to turn. It's cyclical. Real estate markets are cyclical. If you think everything, it's always going to be like this, I think we spoke off air. You know what? The famous book of Who Moved My Cheese. You know what? You better start looking for a little bit more cheese somewhere, because this isn't going to be forever.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. It's almost against human nature to focus very hard on what potentially could be the market a year from now or 2 years from now, because you're so tied up in what's happening today. I mean, look, I was with Fidelity National Title for 20 years. The same thing happens in that world too. You get so busy, you forget about really taking care of those agents and those lenders who keep referring you business, and all of a sudden there's this kind of like they're taking me for granted feeling, because you're not keeping those connections strong. So there's really no excuse for not finding a little bit of time somewhere. And I'm not talking about a lot of time, but a little bit of time to have this continued effort to make sure that you're not forgetting to reach out to those people, whether it's writing some 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 handwritten cards a day, whether it's just really paying attention on Facebook, because they're giving you the birthdays. So why are you not at least, making sure that you reach out then, or when something important happens? So you've got to find a little bit of time. I know that's so hard to say, because some of your agents in your brokerage, David, I'm sure, work 7 days a week, and then trying to find a property for a first-time home buyer. I don't even know how much time they're putting into that. It's tens and hundreds of hours. Who knows? So how do you balance that is, I guess, the eternal question.
And people are like, oh, well, I'm not going to do rentals, or I'm not going to do, under a price range, or those kind of things. And what people don't realize is that you have no idea where that leads you.
Yeah.
I tell a story from a while ago, not that long, well, maybe 5-6 years ago, where I had a referral from an agent on a seasonal rental. And he was coming down, and we went to go ahead, and I showed him a rental, and he liked a couple things or whatever. Maybe I made $800,000, $1,500, whatever it would have been, right? So we made an offer, it didn't get accepted, and that was like on a Saturday. And then on a Monday, I get a call. Hey, I just put your name down. I just bought a new construction condo in Fort Lauderdale. I said, oh, where? He said, oh, the Paramount. And I'm like, Paramount? Like, that's like expensive. It was like a $2 million purchase,
Wow.
and it was like double commission and all kinds of crazy stuff that happened. And it wasn't because, the commission thing, you just never know where that relationship's going to lead you.
Yeah.
So don't limit yourself to price ranges, and don't do this. Limit yourself to having those conversations, and then you making a decision whether or not this is someone that fits within your business model, because not everyone does.
Not just your business model, but just fits in your community, right?
Sure.
Because there's certain types of people that just won't fit, and that's fine too. But it's good to know that early.
Yeah, I mean, listen, your personality is, you start talking, and one is, really, really detailed and wants to know every little step of the way. And if that's not something that you're, you have the ability to do, you're doing a disservice to that client to take on that client. Yeah. And it's going to be a headache for you, because you don't know how to deal with that client, so you really, I mean, listen, refer it out, have other people. And that's why it's so important also to really reach out to your colleagues. Have good relationships with other realtors and real estate professionals. We're not in, despite what everyone says, I'm not competing for your business. We're collaborating for our business.
Yeah.
We're collaborating with these agents. That's, look at the MLS system, look at the board, we have an offer of compensation. Where else, what other industry cooperates as much as the real estate industry?
I don't, I have no idea. I don't think
exist.
It exists. Doesn't exist. Yeah. Yeah.
So, where are we going from here? Right. So we talked about, companies buying companies and where things are, potentially, if you want to call them disruptors or whatnot, I always think like, listen, we need to look in our mirror and as we spoke about, connecting clients and continuing to have those meaningful conversations. But, where's the real estate market going from here? That's whatever, everyone wants to know that crystal ball, right?
Yeah. So look, I mean, obviously what we're going through right now will have an end. And then the hope is it doesn't have an end like 2007 and 8, which I don't think we're in that same position. I don't think the mortgage crisis is going to come back at any near that level. I mean, but there's some weird stuff going on, the forbearance stuff from the pandemic. I mean, there's who knows, FHA is coming back pretty hard. And if someone buys at the top, there'll be a chunk of people. If there's a correction that will be underwater again, but it won't be as near as big. I think that's stuff that's coming. I think an agent who really runs their business like a business then prepares for that, right? Understands that. Stashes some things away, so you're ready for that opportunity. I think you've got to be. I think if short sales come back, you better be ready to grab onto that quick, because those who did that early, and we were processing a ton of that stuff back in the day. Those that adopted that early fared not only very well, but spectacularly well in those kinds of markets. So it's just being ready for the inevitable that's going to come. I think it's weird in the industry. This proliferation of these big teams, David. I mean, it's really interesting to watch that grow. Because they're like operating in almost like a brokerage without having to be a brokerage and have all the stuff that you have as a broker owner, right? So that's an interesting world, and I think that's something to keep an eye on and see how that's going to play out. How does that going to look in the future?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the DOJ, looking at the real estate industry, and you're looking at all these other, kind of, should the broker have more responsibility and or liability, should these teams, be, mini brokerages where they have, agreements between the broker. I mean, it's a big thing, because I look at teams and I would never be an obstacle to someone wanting to grow their business, right? I love teams. I love to be able to help them grow. The one thing that I kind of caution or have to take a step back is that, most of these teams, to a consumer who doesn't have the same, knowledge and,
right.
knows the intricacies of the way that, an agent and a broker, because they still think an agent, realtor, and broker are the same exact things. So, when they look at a team, they're looking, he owns his own brokerage, or that's his own company, or what have you. And that appearance, I think, is a bad thing for the real estate community. But you know what? I'm one person, so I don't know. I just think that if we want to protect the consumer and we want to be able to have consumers go somewhere other than the team leader, they need to know who the broker is. Because it's important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, look, you're with RE/MAX, so you're one of the big boys, and so I think that that's where that kind of leadership will come from, right? How that's going to look. So it'll be interesting to watch.
So people talk about traditional brokerages, right? They consider RE/MAX a traditional brokers. They consider EXP a cloud-based or virtual-based brokerage, coming up, and we're talking about stocks and all kinds of, stuff. Is the traditional brokerage dead?
I don't think so. I know it's not right now, But that's, that's a tough question because, going down the road, what will happen? What does it look like? Right. Keller Williams rolled out a whole different model. How long ago? 25 years ago. It's been a long time, right, that they've been around. And there were a lot of people that were saying, oh my gosh, this will never work at the beginning of that, I'm sure. So it'll be interesting to see. I think, as the home buying audience continues to, come from this place of knowing nothing but online, quick and easy, virtual, I don't need a brick and mortar for anything, that might change the way that, the consumers are looking at it. And as people my age out of, the real estate market, there could be some changes, but I think that's kind of a long-term view still at this point. But I think there's definitely a possibility of more and more of the focus in the industry being away from the brick and mortar traditional to maybe something a little more digital, which doesn't mean that the brick and mortars can't be a part of that. I mean, I'm sure there's some plans in place now to be a part of those kinds of changes in the future.
Well, I think it's an interesting conversation because the pandemic facilitated the virtual brokerage, right? They pushed forth technology that you had to embrace technology, yeah. Whether you were 20 years old or 90 years old, yeah, or you had to retire or get out of the business because you had to understand what Zoom was. You had to, it wasn't a negotiable thing, no. where it was previously, and now it's facilitated. The iCloud or the virtual brokerages, that you look at, and I guess, I always look at the behaviors of like certain generations, right? So like, you look at the millennials, which we've been talking about for many years, as you said, as the Gen X and the baby boomers get out of the business, well, the behaviors of millennials are, they don't need an office, right? So they don't need to be in a brick and mortar. Now, I don't know if that's going to change. I'm certain that there are a segment of them who believe that you need to meet someone in the office other than in Starbucks or, somewhere else other than, Panera Bread or whatever. We have a big office, but our office is really designed for people to be in it. And, I think we've lost agents based on the pandemic because our business model was based on having people in our office. Now we've always had people in our office even during the pandemic, but it is interesting the next few years and where that goes and how that kind of zigs and zags kind of thing.
Right, I agree. I think it's something that you just got to be prepared for it, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with turning a big space into like a meeting place, like a casual place people can come in and hang out and get some work done, almost like one of those tech incubators, that what's wrong with the RE/MAX office being that? And sure. People coming in there and hanging out and they're talking to your agents who are there working. I mean, there's some really cool opportunities.
No, agreed. Bill, I always ask my final two questions. Right?
Okay.
At the end, what is your favorite all-time streaming series? Whether it's Netflix, Hulu, whatever that streaming series is on. And then what are you currently watching?
So my all-time favorite streaming series is relatively recent, and it is without a doubt one of the best series I've ever seen anywhere. It's Ted Lasso. And if you haven't, Ted Lasso,
I've never seen it.
TED and then at Lasso, LASSO, and it's Jason Sudeikis as just a good old boy college football coach who ends up being hired to run an EPL Premier League soccer team in England. Oh, and it's just, and he's all about relationships. Oh, David, he's all about relationships. It's such a good show. So that's definitely number one. The one that we're watching currently is Big Sky, which is nothing near Ted Lasso. It's a little darker.
Well, I saw Yellowstone, and that was really good too. Yeah. But we're currently we've currently hit the streaming wall. So we're finishing up Good Girls.
I've watched Ted Lasso. There's 10 episodes. I've watched the series 3 times in the last 3 months.
I'm I'm definitely in on it.
Yeah, let me know what you think. It's fantastic.
I will. Listen, Bill, I can't thank you enough. Your Real Estate Sessions podcast, you could find them everywhere around podcasting, and we certainly appreciate it. Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Bill, it was a pleasure. It was all mine, and have a great week, and we'll speak soon.
All right. Thanks, David. I appreciate it.
Thank you.